right, everyone ready?
I've never seen this movie before. Wait, is it from my past? Now my nightmares have been unearthed on the Repressed Nostalgia Podcast.
Hello. You've tuned into what is typically known as the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast, a show where four adults, that's right, one of us just turned 18 this month. Anyways, we watch films from the 80s and 90s. Two millennials sit in wonder and amazement, taking in the classics from their childhood, maybe even shedding a tear or two. Though these tears might be because we've got two Gen Zs who are also present bullying these masterpieces. As our billions of listeners know, we love hearing your feedback, suggestions, and shoutouts like praise Beethoven. For those few remaining human beings who are new to the podcast, you can email us at bulliedpod@gmail.com. That's BULLIEDPOD@gmail.com.
How do you spell that again, John, just for clarity's sake?
Anyways, moving on. Once a year in the spooky month of October, our show temporarily transforms into the Repressed Nostalgia Podcast. In other words,
tell by the terrible intro.
Terrible.
He's not talking about you talking, John. He's talking about our Transylvanian theme song.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my voice. The theme song's awesome. I mean, I haven't heard it in
a year
since last year, but I'm sure it's still good. So with our Repressed Nostalgia episode, we cover a movie that gave us nightmares as kids. Last year, Tim chose Jumanji with its soul-sucking CGI monkeys, spiders on wheels,
remote control spiders.
Our film today is pulled from my own sleepless nights, 1991's Ernest Scared Stupid. But before we go any further, let's do some introductions. My name is John, and I'll be your host this episode.
Every time you host, John, you have it so scripted. I love it.
My brother is the terrifying Timothy. You can say something to acknowledge you're here.
Something to acknowledge I'm here.
My nephew, the chilling Chance.
Oh my goodness. Hi, that's me.
And my other nephew, we're so proud of you. Happy birthday, Kylen.
Yippee!
The spookiest birthday.
Many are familiar with the modern blockbuster and movie franchise idea. Before there was a multiverse, there was an Ernest-verse. The character of Ernest existed in television, commercials, and movie theaters from mid-80s to the late 90s. Before we get into the specifics of this movie, Tim, can you tell us a little more about the character of Ernest P. Worrell?
I can, but before I do, I just want to throw it out to Chance and Kai to just ask what your vibe was with Ernest. We watched this movie. It's called Ernest Scared Stupid. Did you guys feel like he had more than one movie or what?
Oh, I know he had more movies, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But this is your first Ernest experience, right?
Yes.
Yes. It feels like all the parts of Dick Van Dyke that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah. It's like if somebody tried to take Jim Carrey and fuse that with Goofy and got the worst creation possible.
Goofy and Jim Carrey. That's a pretty good answer, actually.
This movie was the fifth Ernest movie. And
Fifth.
The fifth.
Hold on. How many Toy Story movies are there?
There's gonna be 5 soon.
So as of right now, one of the most successful movie series of our generation has less movies than Ernest.
And it's thanks to Ernest. He's the one who made those movies famous. He's the voice of Slink.
That's true.
So this is the 5th movie. The one before this was Ernest Goes to Jail. And of course, Ernest is a character that was made famous by Jim Varney. And honestly, I don't want to spoil my opinion of this movie, but I don't know how this became popular. Essentially, he had signed an agreement with Disney to make 3 movies, and then they were so successful that they signed him for a bunch more, but this movie was a financial flop. And so this would be the last movie that they partnered with Disney for. After this, they signed on with another movie company to do the 6th Ernest movie.
And for some reason, we didn't get to watch this one on Disney Plus.
Have you looked? Is there other Ernest on Disney Plus?
I haven't checked, but when I looked online, I was told I could only rent it.
Well, we'll save most of my facts for later, but I will say, just from a data standpoint, this movie had a budget of $9.6 million. It made $14.1 million. Just like we've talked about in all of these movie franchises, it's diminishing returns. 5 movies in, people weren't going to see these anymore. This is not considered one of the better Ernest movies. It has a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes.
But I think of the Ernest movies, is it not like the cult classic by this point, Tim?
It's definitely seen a resurgence. This
I
movie
think-
was not well liked when it came out, but somehow this one has probably solidified itself the most strongly in nostalgia and cultural zeitgeist. When people talk about Ernest movies, this is the one that gets all of the attention.
I would give a counterpoint to that and say Ernest Saves Christmas is the only Ernest movie I had heard of before this. And also, that movie is on Disney Plus.
It is on Disney Plus.
I just did some research, yeah.
You might know about it, Kai, because your family really likes Christmas movies and owns all of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we
It's true.
did have
Every
an
single
Ernest
one.
Saves Christmas DVD. I don't know if I've ever watched it.
Tim, do you want to speak to the specifics of the characteristics of Ernest?
Yeah, so Ernest is an idiot. So for people who've never seen an Ernest movie, Kai made that comparison, Jim Carrey and Goofy.
Yeah.
I kind of get that vibe. The through line is that in a lot of cases in his movies, he would team up with a group of kids. And I think the mindset really was that he had a really childish disposition. He was young at heart and young in mind. He was a kid trapped in an adult's body. And I think that there is a certain amount of charm to that. But by the time this movie had come out, we had run a lot of that charm's course.
For those who are having a hard time picturing what Ernest looks like, he wears a lot of denim, a vest, and a baseball cap. So, Chance, can you speak to this specific movie? Give us a synopsis of Ernest Scared Stupid.
Ernest Scared Stupid, I guess, is what you would call a comedic spin on the classic monster from the Black Lagoon. There's a monster, it's a troll, and it's buried under a tree. And through Ernest being the dummy that he is, he accidentally causes its release. So the rest of the movie is him and these kids trying to defeat the troll and stop it from creating a dog army by kidnapping 5 children.
Really low enthusiasm there, Chance.
Well, I did just watch Ernest.
That's fair. That's really fair.
Can I chime in real
Yeah.
quick with a quick quote from Kylen in the first 5 minutes of this movie?
Sure.
Kylen said, and I quote, "I think I hate this movie."
Boy, was he
We
in for a
hadn't-
surprise.
Gotten past the opening credits yet.
Well, the opening credits were quite a bit. It was Ernest making silly faces with flashbacks to old horror films. Okay, so I'm just going to lay out the names of characters before we get into questions. So if we do bring up characters, people know who we're talking about. So we have the main character, Ernest, who is a garbage truck driver in this movie. He is working alongside 2 children mainly. The boy's name is Kenny. The girl's name is Elizabeth. And Ernest is seeking the help of the resident lady who believes in all the evil things that exist in the world. Kind of like the lady in the spooky house at the end of the street who's actually helpful. Her name is Old Lady Hackmore.
Old Lady Hackmore, John, is played by Eartha Kitt. What do people know Eartha Kitt from?
Yzma.
That's right.
I caught it immediately. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. So.
She was the original Catwoman back in Adam West days, but Emperor's New Groove was what I expected you guys to know her from.
Mm.
The troll's name is Trantor.
Alternatively, Booger Lips. And I know this because I had to pull up several Wikipedia pages because John told me to.
Kai is our resident troll expert, and so we're going to call on him a little bit later.
Official title, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I
Hopefully
deserve
every
this.
movie we watch after this has trolls, so it'll all pay off.
We get to watch Troll too.
And my favorite character, the dog named Rimshot.
He is so cute.
What were people's overall experience with the movie?
I have another quote from Kylen.
Ooh, yeah. Say my own words for me.
Awash with the movie by the halfway point. I talked about how when we watched Fast and Furious 35, at a certain point your brain just goes numb from everything and you just disassociate. I had a similar feeling watching this movie.
Did you watch it alone, Chance?
Yes.
That'll do it. I'd have a hard time watching this alone.
It's so scary.
I think what you've said in the past, Chance, on your rating scale, when you talk about things being enjoyable in the negative, it's because you had a fun experience making fun of it with people.
Yeah, it's very hard to make fun of something by yourself. You just don't want to be there.
Yeah, my wife said that this was by far the worst movie she had watched us watch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Saying something.
I had fun with it. I laughed out loud a number of times.
You were laughing
I
at
think it was
Emily
this
having
time.
to watch it?
Yeah, probably. I draw joy from others' suffering. So.
About
We know.
3/4 of the way through the movie, I gave it a sympathy laugh, and Kylen turned to me and he said, "Don't laugh at that."
It does not deserve it.
Actually, there was one part of this movie that I did laugh out loud for, and it's not because it was a funny joke, but there's a scene where Ernest causes a jack to fly and smash the back window of somebody's vehicle. But I noticed something, and I replayed it, and sure enough, the windshield breaks, and then it hits the windshield. Like, the timing of the prop went off wrong, and they just kept it in. I found that very funny.
I will say, Kai, we probably sincerely laughed when Rimshot hit the troll with a truck.
That was a very funny scene. When they drove a truck into the poor troll.
I think Emily was concerned because it looked like there was a legit person in that costume.
Oh yeah, somebody died for that scene.
About 15 minutes into this movie, I can quote Kylen saying, "I can confirm I hate this movie."
How many more updates do we get from Kylen throughout the movie?
There's one more I think worth speaking to. When Ernest finds out that he's up against a troll, he goes to the department store and he buys all kinds of anti-troll weapons. He's got anti-troll spray, all kinds of traps and things like that. And then they sell him troll love songs.
Yeah?
And Kylen says, "I hate everything about this movie."
Yeah, I remember I watched that scene, and he's like, "Oh, I've got just the things for you." And I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna like scam him into buying stuff that he says is for troll killing." And it hard cuts is like, "And we've got troll certified troll spray." And I'm like, "No, this guy actually has the stuff." You
It's
know?
also especially weird because when Ernest walked into the store asking to kill some trolls, they laughed at him. It's like, "Oh, you're trying to kill a troll? I have a nunchuck built for killing trolls." What is the idea of that scene?
Whoa!
I
We've got
I did do a
back-to-back
Google.
movies
I
with
did
nunchucks.
search the internet and I couldn't actually find any love songs for trolls. Yeah, it was an interesting mashup of a movie because I think it was trying to be child friendly. I think it was trying to be a comedy, and I think it was trying to be a horror movie. And so it was interesting bringing those genres together because it had all the classic horror tropes of the children being hunted down one by one. But then, Ernest would open his car door when this very scary troll was chasing him, and the troll would hit the car door and get knocked out. One moment you're absolutely terrified of this troll and what it can do to children, and the next is super silly and easily beat up by a car door.
I personally really appreciate how good the troll was at impersonations. He's really good at impressions.
Yeah,
Even
well,
on people he's never met before.
maybe this is the time. Kylen, as our local troll expert, what can you tell us about this troll in this movie and, the ancestors that came before it?
So it's really tough to know what John is wanting me to say here. Either I can talk about the history of the puppet, or I can talk about the history of trolls. And so because of this, I had to do research into both fields. I'm going to start with the puppet. This creature is made by the Chiodo brothers. They have specialized in animatronics, clay stop motion, and creature creation in movies such as Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Critters. Actually, pretty interestingly, is that those Killer Clowns from Outer Space characters come back in this movie as some spare trolls. I believe 2 of the trolls in this movie are just repainted characters from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But the more I did research on this production company, the weirder it got. They made the stop motion scenes in the movie Elf.
Fun.
They have a band named after them. And then as I was scrolling through their Wikipedia page, I saw something that I feel like I never should have seen, but I'm so curious now. It's a movie called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. Do you guys know what this movie is?
So it doesn't exist. Essentially what happened was we watched Secret of the Ooze for our podcast, and John and I insinuated that the third movie is much worse. The puppeteering and everything like that all gets a massive downgrade in quality. Next Mutation was supposed to be the 4th movie. However, the 3rd one did not do well, and so the 4th one got canceled. That said, Saban, the company that is famous for Power Rangers, was able to bring back Ninja Turtles after the movies were over, after the cartoon was canceled, and created a live-action TV show that crossed over with Power Rangers called Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. The
And there
Ninja
was
Turtles all
five
looked like
nin-
they crawled out of the dumpster.
Yeah, there was a slightly lighter blue Ninja Turtle.
Yes, a female Ninja Turtle. Her name's
Yeah.
Venus DeMilo. And Laird, one of the creators of Ninja Turtles, hated her so much that she would never exist in any other form of Ninja Turtles media. However, as time has gone on, Eastman wore away at him and said, it's not so bad. So she is in modern Ninja Turtle comics. And to be completely honest, you guys, I would much rather talk about all of this stuff than the Ernest movie.
Okay, back to Ernest movie. So the Chiodo brothers clearly have this ability to do gross creations, almost cartoonishly grotesque. And you see that when Trantor has 2 noses that are both dripping snot. Eventually, at one point in the movie, he grows these giant horns and tendrils all over his face. And it's very clear that they're just really trying to show off with how disgusting they can make the characters. And they do well in that regard. But I think, unfortunately, now I have to talk about what research I did for Trolls.
Yes, please.
My ending decision is that this movie has nothing to do with mythological trolls. Trolls of Nordic mythology were just Jotun, just bad guys, essentially. They would do evil things, fight gods, but there wasn't a specific definition of them from what I could find. They were just mean and scary. Eventually, Scandinavian mythology took up trolls as their own, and they were these forest dwellers who were dumber and slower. They were these big, hulking, slow, dumb creatures. But that's not really what we get in Ernest. We've got this little midget creature running around faster than the humans do. And then there's a third mythology of trolls, which was the Christian troll, which is just a synonym for demon. I did a lot of research here, and this is all going down the toilet because Dad's cutting this out. This isn't worth anything. I just made this giant rant for no reason.
Did any of these trolls have stinky breath that shattered glass?
Surprisingly enough, no.
Were any of them truck proof?
I tried to find history of trolls stealing children. The only thing I could find was a changeling, which is kind of unrelated. You have a baby, and a troll will steal it, and then replace it with one of their own, and it's supposed to imitate a baby.
I'm looking forward to what this does to your algorithm about trolls stealing children.
Oh no, you've ruined my algorithm.
The troll in this movie, as we've mentioned, has powerful breath, carries a sword, has super strength,
This is true.
can impersonate anyone's voice,
and exceptionally good at jump scares. This guy, he could have caught 5 kids in 3 minutes flat. He's so fast, but he loves catching them off guard. You know, like he's only where you're not looking. Every time that someone's looking one way, he's like running up a mountain to get all the way around so that he can loop around and be behind them. To be like, hey, it's me!
It really doesn't follow any mythology. He's just kind of got every superpower ever.
Yeah, plus the most terrifying one, which is turning children into small wooden sculptures. With a creature this powerful, how would we even dream of stopping it?
Hugs.
Uggs.
Yes, they fight the trolls with hugs and milk. I would like to know from Chance and Kai what your thoughts and feelings were when he beat the troll by hugging him.
Remember how I said I was awash with this movie? As that happened, I could just feel Ernest scared stupid blowing over me like a wave of sewage.
This sounds like you were sleeping and I wasn't there to wake you up.
He didn't know how it ended. He slept through it.
No, I'm just done with this movie, I'd say.
You just gave up on talking about it?
But I gave up on paying attention, really.
He totally slept.
Okay.
Okay,
What,
John,
you say-
I have a question for you. As
Yeah.
this being your childhood trauma, going back to it, what were the feelings that you had? And could you see spots where you're like, oh my goodness, no wonder I was scared as a kid?
Oh, yeah, I think that's terrifying to have a creature that is so silent that if I was laying on my bed and I turned the other way, even though there wasn't a door on that side of the room, the monster could somehow be there, transform me into wood and sound like my loved ones. Oh, it was interesting too, because the one young girl at one point, she checks underneath her bed to see if there's a monster. And that was a legit fear for me. I would sometimes jump off the bed and run out of the room as fast as possible so a hand couldn't reach out and get me.
My experience watching it, John, I'd like to hear more about your trauma, but in the tail end of the movie, all of the parents realize that there's a real threat, and they go out to the tree to try and kill the troll just as the army of trolls are born. And these trolls terrorize these parents. They do awful things to them, and he tells them to eat them and stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness. If I was a kid watching this scene, that's pretty traumatic. All the things that the troll did throughout the movie, sure, but to know that your parents are just playthings and that they're just ravaging all of these adults would have been extra hard to watch.
Yeah, I get that. Probably makes more sense.
Oh, but that wasn't scary for you.
Well, I think that would be scary as a kid for sure, that the people who are supposed to protect you can't.
Well, it was so strange, too, because they played it as a joke. Like, Ernest is up in the treehouse and drops a bowling ball, and he smokes one of the adults instead, and he treats it like a win. I guess you killed that human so they couldn't be tortured? Is that the goal now?
Yes, I think we were supposed to feel for the kids in the movie and not the adults.
So, a weird thing about the fear factor of this movie is I feel like it only really shows up halfway into the movie. Because the first time you see the troll, he's running through the forest panting.
He's
He
like
has asthma.
asthmatic.
Yeah, he's like struggling to breathe and he's hobbling around the forest.
When talking about my fear, I wonder if Tim will tease me that I faked my allergies growing up. I wonder if it's possible that I refused to drink milk because I didn't want to decrease our supply for fighting trolls in case they showed up. Either that, or maybe every lactose intolerant person in the world is somehow a descendant of a troll.
To be fair,
Tim,
John, I don't think I accused you of faking your allergies. I think I said something along the lines of, Mom made up some allergies. She never likes shellfish, so I think she was like, oh yeah, you're allergic to those too.
Yeah, I think I was maybe somehow allergic to blackberries at one point, but I don't know how that happened. Did you see those water guns in the movie, Tim?
Oh my goodness. It's in
Like-
caps locks in my notes. I've been waiting to talk about it.
For context, the kids were like, oh, we gotta get ready to fight some trolls. And then Dad was sitting there and he said, Super Soaker. And then the kids go into the store buying things, and then Dad says, Super Soaker. And every time they go to a new aisle, he says, Super Soaker. And then they go over to the aisle of water guns.
I was so excited when they pulled the Super Soaker 50.
Pointed at France.
Yeah, Chance, will you do the honors?
Some poor baguette.
Yeah.
For context, those are super soakers that Tim and I grew up with, but in this case, they were shooting milk at trolls with them.
That's what we did
John,
when
do you
we were
say
growing up
milk?
too. Did you say
said
milk?
Oh, John, do you say milk? This is important.
I say lots of things, Kylen.
You care to talk about this particular one?
I say, I'd like a glass of milk. Milk, yeah, I say M-E-L-K. It just, to say milk feels like way more work. It's like, milk. You have to like press your lips together more. I'm sure it burns more calories to say milk because you have to purse your lips so much. But milk is just like so relaxed. Like, just try saying both things. Like, it's actually like a treat to your face to say milk.
John's introducing a new workout routine. Instead of saying milk, say milk. Burns more calories.
Milk, 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 milk.
So
This
do
is
you,
the dumbest episode we've had in a while.
So they use
Yes.
Super Soaker 50s to shoot trolls with milk.
so which movie was scarier, Jumanji or?
Oh no, John, you're in the right for being scared of this movie.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Dad was
I
for being
think-
scared of Jumanji.
Yeah, I think I texted that to you guys a couple weeks ago. I said, I'm not going to say anything about this movie, but I can see where your childhood trauma came from. Watching Jumanji last year, it was embarrassing that I ever found that scary. This movie, they really struggle to figure out if they want to scare kids or not. It's such a mixed bag of emotions when you're watching it. And all of the emotions suck.
Okay,
Such a
well,
mixed bag of emotions, and all of the emotions are grief and sadness.
And anger
I,
that your brother made you watch this movie.
We've talked about a lot of things in the movie, but let's kind of hop back. What are some of the highlights, some of the top moments that you haven't already mentioned yet, things that you really liked about the movie?
Rim shot.
Yeah, rim shot.
Absolutely. That dog is so cute.
So that dog's name is Barkley, and he was a Disney actor. He joined the Ernest verse in Ernest Goes to Jail. And of
To
course,
the previous movie.
that's right. Stole the show in that one and this one. Unfortunately, because this was the last Disney Ernest movie, he did not appear in the next Ernest movie because he was a Disney paid actor.
It's only
That's
2
terrible.
movies.
Yeah. He was in other movies though. Like I said, his name is Barkley, and you can look him up on IMDb.
Yeah, I'm gonna check his movies list. I like that scene at the start of the movie where it really contextualized that this movie had no grounding in reality. Ernest was trying to set up an auto-cleaning garbage machine thing, and he falls into a garbage compactor. Up until this point, the movie felt like it was somewhat based in reality. He's like, oh no, I'm gonna get crushed. I'm gonna die. He gets crushed, and his legs are sticking out above his head backwards. And he's just like, help me. And then the kids walk over and they laugh at him. The guy is
Immortal.
broken his spine 8 times over, and the kids are laughing at him.
Yeah, that would be terrified to be in that trash compactor.
However, he does make several bits while in that trash compactor.
Yeah, the baby doll head and the gears, that was a funny joke.
Was it?
Was it funny?
It was a thing that he did. How do you guys feel about Ernest's split personalities?
I hate it. That was probably the worst part of
You
the
mean
movie.
his history lesson?
Well, he does it more than once, but you were probably sleeping in the back half.
Chance, did you know it happened twice?
I do know it happened twice. I just remembered the history lesson so vividly.
Chance, when does the second one happen?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No,
You watched this
I don't
movie
remember.
30 minutes ago, Chance. It was one of the final scenes of the movie. Remember
The
when the
same
second
time my
one
wife's
happens?
mom came by and we talked about the vehicle breaking down. I was
Yeah, of course. And this didn't happen in a dream.
Did you know that the split personalities happened 16 times, Chance?
Chance, do you remember that one scene where Rimshot backflipped and kicked the troll in the face?
Be careful, Kai. At a certain point, we might make this movie actually sound good.
Remember the time when the troll did a sick ollie over Ernest?
You're describing Beethoven, Chance. Yes, Beethoven.
Another thing that I liked about this movie is in the beginning and in the tail end when Chance was sleeping, they focused on the treehouse. And I feel like the treehouse was a real 90s kid fantasy. They had pizza throwers and dog food launchers.
I don't understand why they would waste entire pizzas.
Well, Kai said if they had saved any of those, they could have thrown them at the trolls and the cheese on the
Yeah,
pizzas.
they're lactose
maybe.
intolerant.
I wonder if cheese would have worked.
Those are the same pizza props from Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze.
That's
And
right.
it's the same prop guy for both movies.
In this podcast, we circle back and we check in on Drew Barrymore over and over again, Rick Moranis over and over again, and pizzas.
This movie didn't make it to Britain, did it? Because it has nunchucks.
Well, that's what I said. This is our second movie in a row with nunchucks.
But this one doesn't just have nunchucks. They're like a plot point.
It's not like the nunchucks did anything.
That's fair. He did hurt himself with the nunchuck.
That's true.
So maybe this is propaganda. This is made by European governments in an attempt to get people not to buy nunchucks.
That's an interesting thing, Tim, about tree houses. I don't know what that's like in kids' shows nowadays, but you're right. When we were growing up, it was always the dream of every kid in every TV show to have this cool secret club in a treehouse.
I don't know if there is something like that nowadays.
I thought the actor who played Kenny, the little boy, I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, and I guess this was the last movie he ever showed up in, because there's that one scene where the girl gives him a kiss on the cheek, and he gives that facial expression of being surprised and pleased. And I guess he got bullied at school so much because of that scene that he just stopped acting altogether.
I'm surprised at the number of ties back to Odyssey. Right? Like Super Soaker 50s, obviously, the whole treehouse vibe. I guess these really were staples in 90s childhood culture, hey?
Yeah. Any favorite quotes from the movie?
Oh, I wasn't pulling quotes. I should have.
Oh, I don't think I was either.
You were sleeping.
Yeah, Chance. I'm pretty positive you didn't see the final act.
My favorite part was
I
when
don't-
he crawls out of the crater with the kryptonite a second time.
Oh my god.
Yes. Chance, we're going to get you to describe the final encounter.
I'm going to talk about the notes I took.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a favorite quote, but I did find the amount of dubbing the kids did in most scenes very silly. There's a part where, what's the nerdy kid's name? When he falls into the pit before he dies, he's talking so much and crying for so much help, his mouth is not moving at all.
What else is in your note?
What else is in my notes?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
can't help
we were
but
gonna
notice
be-
that was in the first quarter of the movie.
Kylen, you're showing my hand too early. Continue, Chance.
Oh my goodness.
It's a trap, Chance. It's a trap.
It's a troll
No, I'm
trap.
not going to play this game.
Chance, what are your thoughts of the evil demons in this movie?
You mean the
Okay.
ones that come out of the huge Brussels sprouts he talks about?
So here's the issue, is that he doesn't know what I'm talking about. Chance, the things that come out of the Brussels sprouts, you never got there, right? The things
What do
that
you
come
mean?
out of the
Yes, I did.
What comes out of Brussels sprouts?
His evil army. I saw that part.
I
Okay.
saw that part, he says.
Chance, you've fallen into a trap with your own wording.
I was in and out of the room the whole time.
I
trying
was
to
in
get
and
the fact
out of
that our vehicles
consciousness the whole
misfiring.
time.
Chance opened his eyes to see a bunch of trolls, fell back asleep, opened his eyes again, and saw him
Oh my
hugging the
goodness.
troll.
Does
I'm pretty
anyone
sure.
want to ask me if I wrote down some favorite quotes?
Oh, John, what quotes did you write down?
No, ask me if I did.
Oh,
Write down
John.
any number.
Did you happen to write down any quotes?
Do one-legged ducks swim in a circle? Do rattlesnakes kiss carefully?
But
Why, yes, I did. Little trolls in China don't even get milk.
Okay, in all honesty, that's pretty amazing.
I've also got, I've grown too strong for that. Not even milk can stop me now.
Every supervillain should say that, regardless of what they do.
I didn't have forefathers. I just had one, and I didn't know him that well.
I hated that line.
Any parts of the movie that were your least favorite part that you have yet to talk about?
So, this isn't my least favorite, but I kind of want to talk about it. At the start of the movie, it's revealed that Ernest's ancestors capture and bury the troll. How did they catch it? Did they only just get him with like a little bit of milk? Did they hug him for like a half second?
Yeah. When I was allergic to milk products, you'd eat something, but you wouldn't know that it had milk products in it.
Oh, so you're saying they fed him a pizza?
Well, like even crispy minis. Not even the ones with cheese advertised on them. They've got milk ingredients, but you don't know that unless you read the label. So maybe they covered up the label when they fed them.
That's fair. What do trolls eat?
You
Oh no, they
expect it to be
eat
more
bullets.
adult,
Never
right?
mind.
What if you were an adult and you did one of those challenges where you drank 4 gallons of milk right before being eaten by a troll? Do you think that would kill them?
The water balloon challenge.
Oh yeah, the milk challenge. Classic.
You don't think that's a real thing?
Could you
Is-
imagine if that's how the movie went right before the troll showed up?
Guys, remember, the trolls are allergic to Tide Pods, so make sure to eat a few every day.
They beat them by all eating Tide Pods.
I'm waiting for the day that you get a monster movie where the monsters are weak to sulfuric acid. That's a surprise.
They're weak to
They're
bullets.
weak to nuclear bombs.
Yeah. We the goblins, we're only weak to blunt force trauma.
Getting hit by trucks is our weakness.
Oh no, they brought a baseball bat.
I found this in a number of the movies that we've watched, speeding up the film or being in fast forward mode. I think I struggle with that. It's not pleasant.
No, it's awful. That's what Little John was scared of, not trolls. It was the world speeding up for a wacky action scene.
Life going by too fast.
True, that was
John's
what you
fear.
were scared of.
So many life
Hijinks,
lessons.
so now.
John, you were really wise in your young age.
We all grew up far too fast. Tim, when Ernest is scoping out the perfect treehouse, a bird poops on his face. How did you feel about that?
You know how I feel about poop. I don't know why it went in his mouth.
Hold on. Is there a difference for you between bird poop jokes and human poop jokes in movies?
Honestly, bird poop jokes are probably less offensive, but none of it is rising to the level of comedy that is worth talking about.
Would you say that this was better than Diarrhea Cup then?
Yes. Once again, though, I just have to bring up in Three Ninjas, what is wild to me is that a movie that can't help themselves with every sound effect known to man withheld the farting sound. That's such a weird level of self-control, or they forgot. That's like more of a mind game to me than anything.
If you want your movie to be in Europe, it has to have not both fart sound effect and a nunchuck. You have to choose one or the other.
They had to pick between fart sound and 82 hi-yas.
I find, similar to many children's movies, the moral of the story is,
Don't trust your family.
don't trust your family. Your parents don't know what they're talking about, and they'll apologize at the end and said, kid, you were so right for disobeying us. There's actually one quote here, because the kid's like, oh, I'm going to disobey my parents. And it says, you got to do what's right no matter what people tell you. So then they go and they steal the water guns and milk from the grocery store.
Yeah, that's like our running theme of this podcast.
And
Yeah.
unconditional love kills.
The final scene, it just doesn't make sense. The way that they take out the troll is through unconditional love. The main character was just turned into a wooden doll. So you would expect the way that they take down the troll is to try to save the kid instead of, protecting themselves. Versus, I don't know, hugging a troll and dancing around and pretending like you love them. Ernest did not love that troll. There was no unconditional love to be had.
Kylen, are you trying to define love? Can we really know what is love?
Baby, don't hurt
John,
me.
usually when a character spends an entire movie attacking and fighting a creature, only to go, how do I kill this thing? Maybe I can hug it. I don't think that's love. Personally, in my opinion.
Why? They tried hugging it with a truck earlier.
That was love.
Before we go to closing comments, any last things that people wanted to say?
Take me to close.
Let's do it. Close it.
All right, Chance, what's your rating of this film on your -5 to +5 scale?
I don't know. If I watched it with more people, maybe it would be higher, but this is like a -1.
You know what? I believe that if you were in that room that whole time and giving it your full attention, this would have scored better.
Maybe, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I think that if Chance was awake... That's all. I just think that if Chance was awake...
What if?
I might sleep right now. And
What if?
type of this.
Who knows what kind of world we would be in?
Kylen, what cookie would best represent this movie?
Dairy-free cookie.
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have a cookie planned until I realized we were going into closing. And I was like, oh shoot, I need a cookie. Milk is the only thing we see any of the characters ingest, so dairy-free cookie.
Tim, I was thinking of asking you the question, would you ever watch this movie again and how soon? But I would actually recommend that you ask AI.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
For those who don't know, Tim uses AI to make all of his major life decisions.
I said, should I watch Ernest Scared Stupid a second time? It said, if you really enjoyed it and want to catch all the details, watching Ernest Scared Stupid a second time could be fun. You might notice things you missed the first time around. I said, I didn't though. And it said, got it. If you didn't enjoy it the first time, maybe it's best to explore something new.
Did you ask it if you should watch a different Ernest movie?
Okay, let's try that.
So I pulled up ChatGPT, which is the good AI, and it said that there were 3 good things about this movie. A, the comedy. It's slapstick and probably okay for children, but maybe not suited for adults. B, the spookiness. It's not very scary for adults, it said. And C, nostalgia. So, from a group of all adults, the only thing this movie has to offer is nostalgia.
Maybe it's better
I wonder if we had...
that isn't about nostalgia.
Yeah, maybe we should, I don't know, go to Dad's second podcast.
Oh, Kylen, thank you for the little advertisement. For people who haven't been listening, Eric and I started a podcast of our own where we watch terrible movies and talk about them. It's called Objectively Awful. There should be a few episodes out by the time this comes out.
You know, I'm open to people helping me figure out a better ranking system. Tim, I don't know if you want to use that in the future. Should I watch this again by asking AI?
AI? Okay. I did ask which other Ernest movie should I watch, and she said you could check out Ernest Goes to Camp or Ernest Saves Christmas. If you're in the mood for more Ernest adventures, they're both classics and might be fun to watch.
Oh, great. Did you tell her that you actually owned Ernest Goes to Camp as a kid?
I actually owned Ernest Goes to Camp as a kid. That's awesome. Nostalgic movies can bring back so many memories. Maybe it's time for a trip down memory lane with Ernest Goes to Camp again. It could be a fun way to reminisce about the good old days. Enjoy the movie.
Sounds like she's made the decision.
Yeah, you're watching that. John, I like the idea of a ranking scale that just counts the amount of times something appeared, you know? Like, people ate food 3 times on screen.
Or like amount of poop jokes?
Ugh,
Yeah, fart jokes.
Get out of here. My AI assistant aside, I bought this movie because it was on sale. rather than renting it. It sucks. I don't know when I would ever watch it again. I don't think I will. But I own it, so I could.
Yeah, I was thinking, because part of my shtick was I look at the past with rose-colored glasses. So I was thinking maybe before watching the movie, I could write a short little letter to the movie. Like, Ernest Scared Stupid, thank you for buying me more time in my parents' bedroom when I was having nightmares at night. Some kind of letter to the movie of thanking it for the past. And then after watching it now during the podcast, I can write like a goodbye letter.
Oh,
So
that's
you
cute.
write-
John, I guess we haven't really talked about it. Did you enjoy this experience at all?
Yeah, but like I said, if I did watch it by myself, it would feel a little bit more like a chore. But I think because Emily wasn't enjoying it, I was having a really good time.
There's not many movies that we watch where I'm just like, I don't know if there's any enjoyment that can be had out of this movie. This movie is about as bad as it gets. I don't know why a person would ever watch this movie.
I thought it was fun to be like, oh, which kid's gonna get turned into a wooden statue next?
I will say that they totally sidestepped my expectations.
Subverted the expectations.
They
Yeah, those
introduced
two
the two bullies, and there's exactly 5 kids, and it needs to catch 5 kids. And then there's some random kid on a skateboard who just gets yoinked. It did subvert my expectations there, I'll give you that, John.
When the troll incarnated the first time, do you think it had a goopy tree that it had to grow its babies at? Because the tree that he grows his baby Brussels sprouts at is the one that grew on his gravestone.
Good question.
All right. Well, too deep of thought for us at this point.
Yeah, it's closing right now.
That's a wrap on Ernest Scared Stupid.
It sucks.
If you're interested in us ever covering the only Ernest movie we owned, Ernest Goes to Camp, let us know. What about our next episode? With Christmas being right around the corner, we figured we'd cover a holiday classic. Tim, what is it?
The Nutcracker Prince.
That's the animated one, right?
Yes, 1990s, The Nutcracker Prince. People can watch it on YouTube.
Chance, is this one that we've seen?
I've seen it, I think.
I'm pretty sure this was in our Christmas movie bin.
It's very possible. Your mom owns every Christmas movie, whether they're good or not.
Yeah, I've definitely
So
seen it before.
This one definitely could be in that bin. I don't remember the last time I've watched it. I have a lot of fond memories for this movie that was not a Disney movie. Got some high expectations I'm going in with. I can't wait for it to crash and burn.
Okay, well, any call-outs before we end this baby?
Look out for weirdos.
Amen. Testify.
Adventure, Jamie! Adventure!
We are rotten.
Rotten
Rotten
to the core. That's very hard at a distance. Chance, are you excited
For what?
that we're like 3 episodes away from doing Descendants 2?
I was gonna, for the bit, just leave the call.
I'm excited.
I'm excited.
But
Well, we're all excited.
yeah, you need to
knew
give
it.
more call-outs because we're ending the episode now.
We're gonna have to watch it virtually with him, or
Or he'll
John
fall asleep.
physically. Yeah, we don't want him sleeping through Descendants. That is worst case scenario.
Chance, we're gonna
Yeah.
rig
Wait,
up a
you have no
robot in your
faith in me
room.
that I'll watch this movie I supposedly love?
We're
Chance.
gonna rig up a pizza thrower.
We're gonna rig up a robot that is designed to slap you whenever you fall asleep.
No, I mean, that's what I'm here for. We could just make sure that Chance has to watch it with me. I'll do all the slapping.
I'll do all the pizza
It'll be like
throwing.
John and Emily invite Em and I out for a really nice evening. And we're like, oh, we're gonna go like to an escape room, and it's like, surprise! It's Descendants 2!
Tie him
Yeah,
up.
we'll probably have to make up some kind of a trap.
What you do is you rent out the escape room and make it so that the TV in the room just plays the Descendants movie and there are no puzzles.
That's amazing.
The no escape room.
Okay, well, I'm gonna call it there, folks.
Okay.
Okay.
It
Love
was
you
great talking
guys.
to you guys.
Have a great
Bye
night.
bye.
Bye!
Bye.